Continuing the Revolt of the Angels, Chapter 6, wherein Père Sariette discovers his missing treasures. Next morning, Monsieur Sariette entered Monsieur René de Esparvu's study without knocking. He raised his arms to the heavens. His few hairs were standing straight up on his head. His eyes were big with terror. In husky tones, he stammered out the dreadful news. A very old manuscript of Flavius Josephus, 60 volumes of all sizes, a priceless jewel, namely a Lucretius adorned with the arms of a Philippe de Vendôme, Grand Prior, France, with notes in Voltaire's own hand. A manuscript of Richard Simmon, and a set of Gassendi's correspondence with Gabriel Naud, comprising 238 unpublished letters, had disappeared. This time the owner of the library was alarmed. He mounted in haste to the abode of the philosophers and the globes, and there with his own eyes confirmed the magnitude of the disaster. There were yawning gaps on many a shelf. He searched here and there, opened cupboards, dragged out brooms, dusters, and fire extinguishers, rattled the shovel in the coke fire, shook out Monsieur Sariette's best frock coat that was hanging in the cloakroom, and then stood and gazed disconsolately at the empty places left by the Gassendi portfolios. For the past half-century, the whole learned world had been loudly clamoring for the publication of this correspondence. Monsieur René de Esparvu had not responded to the universal desire, unwilling either to assume so heavy a task or to resign it to others. Having found much boldness of thought in these letters, and many passages of more libertine tendency than the piety of the 20th century could endure, he preferred that they should remain unpublished, but he felt himself responsible for their safekeeping, not only to his country, but to the whole civilized world. How can you have allowed yourself to be robbed of such a treasure? He asked severely of Monsieur Sariette. How can I have allowed myself to be robbed of such a treasure? Replied the unhappy librarian. Monsieur, if you opened my breast, you would find that question engraved upon my heart. Unmoved by this powerful utterance, Monsieur de Esparvu continued with pent-up fury. And you have discovered no single sign that would put you on the track of the thief, Monsieur Sariette. You have no suspicion, not the faintest idea of the way these things have come to pass. You have seen nothing, heard nothing, noticed nothing, learnt nothing. You must grant this is unbelievable. Think, Monsieur Sariette. Think of the possible consequences of this unheard of theft committed under your eyes. A document of inestimable value in the history of the human mind disappears. Who has stolen it? Why has it been stolen? Who will gain by it? Those who have got possession of it doubtless know that they will be unable to dispose of it in France. They will go and sell it in America or Germany. Germany is greedy for such literary monuments. Should the correspondence of Gassendi with Gabriel Naud go over to Berlin, if it is published there by German savants, what a disaster, nay, what a scandal. Monsieur Sariette, have you not thought of that? Beneath the stroke of an accusation, all the more cruel in that he brought it against himself. Monsieur Sariette stood stupefied and was silent, and Monsieur de Esparvu continued to overwhelm him with bitter reproaches. And you make no effort, you devise nothing to find these inestimable treasures. Make inquiries, bestir yourself, Monsieur Sariette. Use your wits. It is well worthwhile. and Monsieur d'Esparvieu went out, throwing an icy glance at his librarian. Monsieur Sariette sought the lost books and manuscripts in every spot where he had already sought them 100 times, and where it could not possibly be. He even looked in the coke box and under the leather seat of his armchair. When midday struck, he mechanically went downstairs. At the foot of the stairs, he met his old pupil, Maurice, with whom he exchanged a bow. But he only saw men and things as through a mist. The broken-hearted curator had already reached the hall when Maurice called him back. Monsieur Sariette, well, I think of it, do have the books removed that are choking up my garden house. What books, Maurice? I could not tell you, Monsieur Sariette, but there are some in Hebrew, all worm-eaten, with a whole heap of old papers. They are in my way. You can't turn round in the passage. Who took them there? I'm bothered if I know. And the young man rushed off to the dining room, the luncheon gong having sounded quite a minute ago. Monsieur Sariette tore away to the summer house. Maurice had spoken the truth. Half 100 volumes were there, on tables, on chairs, even on the floor. When he saw them, he was divided betwixt joy and fear, filled with amazement and anxiety, happy in the finding of his lost treasure, dreading to lose it again, and completely overwhelmed with astonishment. The man of books alternately babbled like an infant and uttered the hoarse cries of a maniac. He recognized his Hebrew Bibles, his ancient Talmuds, his very old manuscript of Flavius Josephus, his portfolios of Gassendi's letters to Gabriel Naud, and his richest jewel of all, to wit, Lucretius, adorned with the arms of the Grand Prior of France, and with notes in Voltaire's own hand. He laughed, he cried, he kissed the morocco, the calf, the parchment, and vellum, even the wooden boards, studded with nails. As fast as Hippolyte, the manservant, returned with an armful to the library, Monsieur Sariette, with a trembling hand, restored them piously to their places. And so we made, I guess it is Anatole, France, but that could be the Englishized of the name. Translation by Miss Wilfrid Jackson. And of course, we run into, let's be careful where to place our blame, of course. But perhaps it was there for private study because they knew how watched the actual library was. I mean, this is fiction, but and there's a common passing down the blame and stuff like that.